Staying true to my roots and believing in myself. The work that I put into the business and the relationships is what paid the dividends, and the support and the love that I had from the organisation, which is one of our core values as an organisation. The firm was amazing to me.
A very, very warm welcome to my podcast, brought to you by Michael Glanville Executive Coaching. And this time round, I have the absolute privilege of welcoming Pete Swinburn from Clarke Willmott Solicitors. Welcome to the show, Pete.
Thank you, Michael. Real privilege to be here. Thank you.
Excellent. So, Clarke Willmott Solicitors is an award-winning and fantastic solicitors based all around the country, and we're going to hear a little bit more about that and Pete's journey through leadership and becoming a CEO, and what it means to manage and lead a firm of lawyers. But Pete, first of all, great question for you. Are you a lawyer first, or are you a chief exec first?
I am a chief executive, Michael. I am a commercial property lawyer by trade. I'm a commercial property solicitor, qualified in 2004, and I love anything bricks and mortar. That really floats my boat. Any shopping centres, supermarkets, office blocks, residential developments, football stadia. I really, really enjoy my trade. But actually, in the last 3 years, I've had the privilege of being a chief executive at Clarke Willmott, and I am really enjoying the role. Probably for my colleagues, not for their ears, but I'm enjoying the role more than I probably thought I would. It's a real privilege to have the role, but it's a fabulous role to be. And so probably only in the last 18 months or so, I've really felt best positioned to be the chief exec, but I'm a chief exec.
Good. Well, and congratulations for making it that far as well.
Thank you.
Now, you said they're not for your team's ears. You do know this is a podcast, right? I mean,
Yeah,
they are
exactly.
going to be able to watch it,
Yeah.
and I'm not going to edit
I
it
hope
out.
they do. Yeah, no, I'm going to. Thanks.
But in all fairness, talking of your colleagues, I mean, I know a few of them and have been lucky enough to work with the firm in the past, and without fail and without question, every single one of them has said, Pete is a brilliant chief executive, and that's it's a great response to have when you ask that question. And how does that make you feel?
Very proud. I didn't really get the sort of memo as to what a chief exec needs to do when I took the role. I've always aspired to have one of the most senior roles in the organisation and worked hard towards that, but didn't really know quite what the role encompassed, I suppose, when I was coming through the system. It's a people game. I love and care for our people. That was how I ran the team when I was building a commercial property practice here in this office. And I really care for the people in our environment. And I spend as much time as I can on the shop floor speaking to our people and learning about their lives. There is no hierarchy within the organisation. Structurally, there's a hierarchy, but fundamentally, we want to be able to look after all of our people, and we put people at the very top of our strategy. They're a core part of our core pillar within our strategy, our strategic goals, and form the sort of very bedrock of the organisation. In a professional services environment such as law, we don't have the ability to rely on the sort of quality of a product or a widget to fall back on. Looking after our people and working with them and to be part of that is extremely exciting. I love the role, and I love being able to give people the best careers they can have in this organisation. And the results of that are through growth within the business and strong retention levels within the people piece.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, retention is interesting, isn't it? Because you want people to be able to develop and grow in their roles, and if you, within your succession planning, aren't able to meet their needs in terms of the speed and the pace that they're looking for, how do you approach trying to develop people who've got ambition and their aspirations? What's the firm's focus from your point of view? It's
been challenging. I won't deny the fact that there was a bit of a salary war, particularly on the back end of COVID. Law particularly was impacted by that sort of salary war, and we found ourselves under some degree of pressure. We decided to take the route, rightly or wrongly, to stay very true to our roots, to remain steadfast in our proposition, proud of what we offer. And as I say, that sort of cultural piece is just goes right the way through, it's endemic through the organisation, and it's really important to us. So we try and provide the best career opportunities. As I say, we put people at the very top of our strategy. We're providing training, learning and development programs to enable people to be able to get on and become specialists in their own arena. We are trying to keep up with salaries and trying to make sure we are market consistent, but hoping to provide a rounded package that gives people all aspects of the career journey that they need. And as I say, that's playing through. We've got a good work-life balance within the organisation. I think that's important. We've got a nice hybrid working policy that I think complements people wanting to be able to work hard and perhaps enjoy some of the finer moments at home. And I think it's working for us really, really well.
Yeah, fantastic. Now, running a legal firm is highly regulated. It is a ever-changing regulated environment, ever increasing.
Yeah.
And that obviously puts significant pressure on margin. It puts significant pressure on the leadership team to make sure that you're meeting your governance requirements and so on.
Yeah.
What would you say, sort of over the last, certainly in your tenure, what's been the biggest change for you? I mean, is it AI or is it something else that you've had to face?
Regulation has been. It just continues to grow. We've got an ever-expanding, excellent risk and compliance team. We've got a lot of regulation to comply with. Even the very sort of inception of a client and onboarding journey. Many of you watching this podcast will have been through that process with a law firm or an accountancy practice in your time, and will realise that the requirements needed for identification and source of wealth and source of funds and that onboarding piece now takes almost as long as getting a transaction or a deal moving. And we're playing in that environment day in, day out, and regulation, it can be a frustration within the business. It's an absolute necessary. And as time has gone on, particularly as I've moved into this role, I now realise how important and how necessary the regulation piece is. But it is tough and it's ever increasing, and it can cause frustrations to our client base and the people we're working with, and it can cause some frustration internally. We're trying to expedite and provide the highest standards of regulatory compliance because it's so important to us, but trying to do that in a way that we can mitigate the impact that it has on our clients and our people. AI is a whole different proposition, one that we continue to enjoy the conversation, the dialogue with internally. I suppose wrestle is probably a slightly better word for it. AI is a threat and an opportunity to the market, but the regulatory compliance around that is mission critical, really. We've got to get this right. My governance teams are spending a lot of time looking at the impact of AI and the opportunities it provides. We're very much seeing this now as a very strong opportunity for our clients and our people, and I'm really enjoying working with some of the tools that are available. But we're doing so in a sustainable and a controlled environment to make sure that we don't take any risks or put either our clients or our people at risk. But it's a journey, very much a journey.
And I think every firm would say it's a journey. And what's really good is obviously you've got some significant governance and control around it, which is it's one of businesses' challenge at the moment. But in professional services particularly, there's a lot of narrative in the press and in social media around it taking away the more junior roles. And one of my concerns, questions, discussions I've had with other people has very much been, okay, well, if you do that, then how do you organically train lawyers from stage one to the stage that you're at? How do you create future leaders in a world where the basics are being done by a computer, which were previously done by a person that then learned that to become a better lawyer? That's got to be a bit of a challenge for legal firms at the moment.
Yeah, and that was probably our some of the thoughts that went through our psyche when we first started sort of, I think the correct term is sandboxing this, but when we first started trialing and piloting some of the software and tools that are available probably 3 years ago now. I mean, just to set the scene for what we are doing at Clarke Willmott, we've got a phenomenal knowledge team. We've got a great risk team. We've got a phenomenal knowledge team, and we've got a brilliant IT platform. We've spent a lot of time and money and resource in putting together very sustainable and long-standing sort of IT platforms that enable us to be able to trial tech and to bring in new systems and programs that can complement and augment the offering that we're giving to our clients. And as part of that, we are able, therefore, to test and trial some of the bits that are coming through. And a few years ago, I think the sort of narrative in the media was, well, actually, it's going to put more junior roles under threat because you can start to process and automate some of the processes that you've got in place. Actually, as it's starting to, our strategic direction of travel at that point, we very firmly wanted to focus on the sort of human in the loop. I mean, fundamentally, going back to what I said earlier on, we're a people game. Relationships are absolutely everything to us. We want long-standing client relationships. We want long-standing people relationships. And I don't think, in my personal opinion, I don't think AI can change that. Yes, it can augment and improve and bring some efficiencies to the way you provide services, and actually, I think for the benefit of everybody. But it doesn't change that human in the loop piece, where people want their trusted advisor. They want to know that you're there. So what we are doing, back to our people strategy from a moment ago, is to work really hard with our junior levels to make sure that they understand that speaking to clients and that interaction is just absolutely critical to the success of the organisation. And we're putting a lot of focus, a lot of training and support around that. What is really interesting, going back to our innovation group, we've set up an innovation group who are trialing and testing some of the new software. The working group is actually manifestly a group of very junior lawyers, actually, and actually some non-fee earning people, some of our staff, and they are in some cases a long way ahead of some of us dinosaurs within the organisation, and are actually helping to test and pilot the tech and to help us to implement some of the brilliant bits that we've got at the moment. So actually, we are really seeing this now as an advantage, an opportunity for us to improve the way we provide our services. And if we maintain that human in the loop piece and that client relationship piece, which is so critical, then we actually see this as an opportunity, and not the fear factor that was circulated some years ago when AI became a thing.
Oh, great to hear, and clearly at the forefront of what you're doing. So yeah, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
So your Clarke Willmott as a partnership, that is slightly different to running a corporate with some a private investor or with shareholders. Obviously, it has its relationship opportunities, shall we say? What would you say though was the most challenging thing from a leading a partnership? Is it the people, or is it the structure? Is it the approach? What is it?
I suppose there's two elements to that. There's the sort of corporatized answer, and there's the Peter Swinburn answer. The Peter Swinburn one is that I'm a bit of a, I like to be involved with people. I like to be close to people. I like to know what's going on in the organisation and to help and support where I can. And probably a slightly war story is that occasionally that's blended and sort of blurred into pleasing too much and trying to be all things to all people. And one of the journeys that I've picked up, one of the sort of lessons I've picked up, is that you can't please everybody. You can't be all things to all people, and that is really really difficult. So that trying to manage and lead with total integrity and openness and honesty, which is my style, but being fair and reasonable to everybody all of the time is difficult. And that's certainly a continuing evolution of my development that is a daily thing. I think we are an LLP, which is a fantastic structure because it enables you to be, it sort of provides some of the flexibility of a limited company, but it also gives you the very much the spirit and the cohesion of a partnership. We've got 26 equity partners and 60 fixed share partners, essentially. And then we've got a series of salary partners, and then the organisation progresses through. And you do have a lot of the strength of a partnership is the cohesion and the ability and the group of people that you're working with. But that is also a challenge, because trying to understand and understand the views of, well, particularly my equity group, to understand the views of all 26 people and trying to keep them all interested, incentivised and happy at the same time is tricky. And so that is probably the biggest. We're very lucky here that I've got a wonderful group of members, and I don't really have great challenges because I'm very much supported and and I do feel that they're behind me. But when you're making decisions about 85 different owners of the business, and you've got to make sure you're taking leads from all of them and bringing them on the I don't use the word journey very much, but I've used it about 4 times today. But bringing them on the journey with you, they are part of this. This is very much their business as much as mine, and taking them on that journey is really important. So, yeah, keeping the membership updated, well communicated, well read around the business is a challenge, but it's also the benefit of the game.
Excellent. It is meeting amazing leaders on their journey to success.
Exactly.
You can mention journey as many times as you like. Okay, so that's a little bit about the business, but tell us a little bit more about you, because you mentioned work-life balance and your want and wish to give that to your team. But actually, one of the most difficult things for a chief exec is to give themselves a work-life balance, to keep themselves in check.
Yeah.
And quite often they have people like me that help keep them in check. But the reality is it's difficult to do that because you're concentrating on everybody else. And you've had some stuff going on in your life as well that's put some different perspective and pressure on that. So how have you worked through that? How have you brought that into your work-life balance?
I mentioned about everyone else having a work-life balance. I don't think it necessarily applies to me. It's a work balance. I mean, I've got a fabulous family at home, and I love my family life. But the work-life balance, the challenge of the two elements is tricky, and I think that comes from every leader and everyone watching this podcast. It's the daily challenge that we all deal with. We have had a lot going on. I was building a commercial property team in the Southampton office for 10, 15 years, following when I joined Clarke Willmott in 2011 from Shoesmiths, and I really enjoyed my work. I was very junior. I was only 7 years qualified, and I joined as a sort of junior partner and set about building a team then. And my team image was all about, bringing people on an experience and a journey that they wanted to be here. We had a really highly motivated, really exciting team that had grown, and I was really, really proud of it. That was probably the first area where I noticed this pleaser piece and not being able to keep everybody happy, because there's a fine line as a leader between that and being friends and mates, and there's a distance there. But I think we were very much encouraging the work-life balance CW during that period. I stepped into a more managerial role, more leadership role in 2019, which was the managing director role of a division, which is, I suppose, the commercial property division had about 250 people in at that point. And I really enjoyed that, but that was during the onset of the COVID years. And then I stepped into this role in 2023, and pretty much I was voted in October 22. At that point, my daughter was diagnosed with diabetes. My father-in-law had a really major operation and ended up having his leg amputated. I was voted the CEO, elected the CEO, and my wife has been through a really serious health issue. So we ended up having to relocate the family to get closer to family, and just as I was stepping into this role, and that was a challenging period. Actually, the work and the work that I put into the business and the relationships and that people piece that I was talking about earlier on is what paid the dividends, and the support and the love that I had from the organisation, which is one of our core values as an organisation. This caring nature is capital C in terms of a value of the firm, was testament to what I endured and enjoyed. I mean, the firm was amazing to me. I found that work at times was a bit of a solace. I was able to really get my head down and enjoy the times at work, and that gave me the freedom and the bandwidth to be able to do the things I needed to do at home. And you can never say you sort of sail through these things, but as a family, we got through relatively unscathed, and we're really proud of that, because
stronger.
Much stronger. It was a tough time, but actually, we've all come out of it stronger. I think the firm is stronger because of it, because I'm much more objective and able to lead in a different way and in an improved fashion, I think. And the family, we realise that the price of life, and maximise the enjoyment of it as a result. We're really really cohesive as a group. So it's it's been a tough time, but actually, we come out of it with all the benefits, I think.
Well, I'm a big believer in who you are, how you show up, what makes you you, and your life journey being such a massive influence on how you are as a leader.
Yeah.
Because it's
That's
impossible
so
for
true.
one to segregate home from work, because particularly in a senior leadership role, because the two things have to be integrated. But it's lovely to hear that those more challenging times have positively influenced how you feel about how you're leading the business. That's really good.
Yeah, I really believe that. I have a wonderful home life, and I really enjoy the time with friends and family, and that enables me to bring in some of those, some of that sort of optimism and hope and enjoyment into the firm. And that's very much my style of leadership, is to try and infuse and empower people to be the best they can be the best version of themselves. I've myself have gone through a series of sort of personal development programs. I've been through a sort of physical well-being, not that you necessarily notice it on screen, but been through a physical well-being program that has had major dividends for me. It's really paid, and that headspace to be able to think of it clearly and make the right objective decisions is really important in this role, I find.
Clarity,
yeah. And going back to what I said earlier on, the consistency of messaging to your people is so important.
Yeah.
I guess so. One of the questions that I ask on my podcast, as you know, is what are the highs and lows? I mean, presumably that period is what you would have used as your low. What about the highs? What have been the best bits?
When I was the leader of the commercial property team, there was some real highs, and that really manifested on the success of repeat work from clients and seeing initiatives that I was bringing into play succeeding. That gave me the confidence to be able to build something really great, and I was really, really proud of it. That has translated into the chief executive role, and I have had a wonderful 3.5 years now. I've just had my second term affirmed by the membership, so I've got another 4-year
Congratulations.
term. Thank you.
You're obviously pleased about that.
I'm thrilled.
Yeah,
I am thrilled. I love it. I really, really, really love the role. What has been the best high by some distance is having been able to see the transition of the practice into a more enthusiastic, more empowered organisation. We've been a strong firm. We're 138 years old as a practice, and I'm very much the custodian of the sort of crown jewels, really. And that's very much as I see my role, the need to evolve and develop the firm and leave it in a slightly better position than I inherited it, hopefully. But actually, one of the things that we needed to do, particularly on the back end of COVID, and everyone will know this around in every organisation, but obviously inflation and cost and rising costs and salary pressures, that I inherited a situation where we had to make sure we were alive to those. And so very much set around putting in place a growth agenda. And I think every firm, every organisation was doing this, or certainly the better managed organisations, I think, were doing that. But we really started to really hit home that messaging that we wanted people to look for those incremental advantages, look for those incremental gains, and to try and improve the way we're providing our client services. The market is incredibly tricky. The corporate market particularly has been very tough the last couple of years. So we need to be the best version of ourselves. We need to be providing the best service we can to our clients. And actually the highlight is having seen that growth agenda embed into the business and people coming on that journey. Really, I go into the offices now and people are all talking about the growth of the firm. We've grown sort of 8 or 9% the last 2 years in a really sustainable way, but actually everyone's now talking about the next step and what can we do next. And as a result of that, we're seeing new clients coming to us that perhaps we wouldn't necessarily have been attractive to them previously, but we're getting opportunities with lateral hires and team hires that we might not have been in this position previously, where they're hearing a bit of a buzz around the firm and are excited around what's going on. So I don't necessarily see the some of the family challenges that we've had and some of the health challenges as a low, because I really genuinely believe it's made us stronger. It's been tough, but it's been I still think there's benefits that come out of that situation. But by a country distance in terms of work. The high has been the seeing people really get behind what we're trying to do, and the belief in me and us as a senior leadership team to be able to deliver that. That has been epic. Yeah.
That's brilliant. And obviously, people, leadership, growth, all part of your core strategy.
Yeah.
But strategy is multi-dimensional, and when you've got a sort of fixed period of, this is your chapter, this is your opportunity, if you like. I'm sure your strategy isn't do more lawyering. So what's next long term for Clarke Willmott? Where would you like to see it in your time?
Yeah. So I hope I'm not doing myself a disservice. I had to say, when I took the CEO role back in 2023, I sat down and had a blank sheet of paper and thought, right, I need to have a genius strategy. I need to come out all guns blazing with a great strategy. And I'll be absolutely honest with you, I found it really tricky, particularly running a law firm, which is a very traditional practice. We want to be brilliant at what we do, but actually a lot of lawyers are at the top of their game and are technically very astute and at the peak of their technical careers. So that is a challenge. And I sat there with this blank sheet of paper, and actually it took a good year, really, if I'm being honest, for me to really develop and evolve a strategy that I could get behind and evolve and believe in and sell to the business. And actually some of the best minds in the business in our senior leadership team helped me with that. And actually we came up with a 3-year strategy in 2020. We devised our 3-year strategy in 2024 that finishes this year. And I really genuinely believe in it. And not only that, but we set ourselves some goals, and we had 10 big goals that we'd set around that with metrics around them. And we are, I think, if we, all things being equal, and we finish off this financial year as we're going, I think we will meet them all, which I couldn't have necessarily said when we first set this up 3 years ago. But what that has done, I mean, we're 3 months, we've just finished Q1 of FY27, and we find ourselves in a position where we are trading really well, notwithstanding the headwinds that we find in the market at the moment. But actually, we sat down and we've devised a very comprehensive Strat 30 now, which will run from April 27 through to the end of March 2030. And in putting that together, we found ourselves, we've spent a lot of time sort of workshopping that with the business. I think in 24, when I set out this strategy, it was very much my thoughts on a page and helped by some very clever people in the business who helped to shape that. This time we've wanted to bring the entire business on that journey with us.
Nice.
And actually people are behind it. So now people are all talking about Strat 30 and what does that look like. And really it's a continuation of where we had started. It's, our clients are number one most important thing to us alongside our people. Innovation remains so important now, that particularly the tech advancements and AI, the opportunities that AI presents. Our ESG credentials, we are really flying at full tilt, really, in terms of our environmental governance processes. We're well ahead of our net zero commitments, but we're doing a brilliant job. I've got a fantastic team who are doing a wonderful job in that space. But actually, the S is the bit that sometimes, so governance, we are at the peak of our game. We're lighting up all of the metrics we need to with our governance structures, because we have got a great team that are doing everything we need to do in the governance and risk space. But the S is the one that I think sometimes can be more challenging. And social mobility. Social is a massive part of what I very much believe in, and we're trying to develop a market-leading program in social mobility that enables entry and avenues into the law that perhaps didn't exist for some areas of the communities and environments. And I'm really, really proud of it. I steadfastly believe in it, and I'm spending a lot of time in that S space. So ESG is a big part of it. That's our fourth pillar, and then finance. The financial sustainability of the practice is our fifth.
That sort of long-term stability piece,
and make it little incremental gains in the finances that can improve performance long term, and people are. The business is behind it. I mean, that's what's so exciting. Is I think everyone really believes in it, and that's what's so encouraging.
What keeps you awake at night?
What keeps me awake at night? AI has kept me up at night. The advent of private equity and different structures in the business,
roll-ups and
consolidation of the marketplace. There are lots of firms who are in a interesting space at the moment. There's some firms that are struggling. We are in a fortunate position that when we are doing really well at the moment, and we're in a very positive position, but that comes with a lot of hard work and some great people around the organisation. So keeping that structure in place and making sure we can continue to augment and enhance that is probably what keeps me up at night.
So, great family man, great CEO, hugely successful, but you must have some other interests. You were telling me about cricket and cars.
Yeah.
I like that. Tell us a little bit about your interest in cricket and cars.
Having moved to Somerset to try and get closer to family in the southwest, and also our HQ is in Bristol. Somerset is a huge part. I grew up in Exeter and used to follow Somerset cricket when I was growing up. But actually, having moved to Taunton now, we are really, particularly Charlie, my son, and I, are loving the cricket. We are fortunate to have some tickets through the firm because it's a fantastic client offering as well. So I spend a lot of time at the county ground in Somerset.
Very good.
And we are, as a family, I'm hopefully Ellie won't mind me saying, but she is F1 mad. I'm not sure whether it's necessarily the combustion engine cycle, or whether it's maybe Lando Norris's lovely blue eyes and
it's all about the people,
and big bank balance. But I mean, Drive to Survive really enhanced all of that with the children. But we are real petrol heads. So we went to Silverstone last weekend to watch the Grand Prix, and we're off to the Festival of Speed tomorrow.
Yeah.
A good.
I can see in your face you love it.
Love it, absolutely love it. And Ellie had her prom the other day, and we had a DB9 to drop off, and it was perfect. It was really fabulous. So we are trying to enjoy those moments that you work really hard to be able to afford to do, and we're trying to do that.
Yeah, no, that's really, really great. And actually, if you can, passionately focus on some other things, that helps you with your not just work-life balance, but actually your headspace and how you feel about life, makes you a better leader.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think the additional bits that you can bring in your private life, the hobbies and the bits that you are able to have some downtime with, mean that you're the best version of yourself when you're in work. I really do believe in that.
Yeah. It's all about your journey and what that brings.
Yeah.
Now, Clarke Willmott is a multi-site operation.
Yeah.
And multi-site operations are really difficult to run because you can't be in all places at once.
Yeah.
What would you say was the biggest challenge running a multi-site business?
I think you've just hit on it.
Can't be in all places
exactly.
at once.
I love being in the teams, and so make being visible and being there a really big thing, a mission for me. But that comes with challenges. So the biggest thing actually for me is my private, my personal time, my private life, because I'm on the road or the rail a lot, and I'm in hotels a lot. And then sort of physical well-being, you're trying to
eating out a lot.
You're trying to entertain your people or your clients, and try and maximise my time in each location. So you end up being out a lot and living out of hotels. That in itself is a challenge. So that's probably the hardest thing about trying to see all people frequently, to be visible and relevant, I think. Each office has got slightly different. We've got a wonderful culture across the business, but each office has got a different culture, and so that's actually the privilege of the sort of byproduct of that relentless sort of travel and making sure you're visible in all the offices is actually the privilege of seeing the different people in the different offices and enjoying that sort of cultural blend. So it's a strength and probably a bit of a weakness for the chief exec. It's not a weakness for the business because our geographies are brilliant, but for me to be visible in all those offices is tiresome.
Yeah. And a challenge.
A challenge.
Yeah, for sure. All right, one last question.
Okay.
Killer question.
Yeah.
So our viewers and listeners have got used to the end of our podcast being a message from the CEO, and it is really important. So no pressure whatsoever. But Pete, what is your message to viewers and listeners of our podcast about being a CEO, about life experience, about it can be whatever you like, and some people are given 2 or 3, but go for it.
I've got for me, staying true to my roots and believing in myself has been the overarching message for me. Just to give a little bit of context to that, I grew up not the most confident of individuals and didn't really necessarily always back myself. I had a slightly trickier university period than others, and I didn't come out of university really feeling all that confident around my offering and who I was. We mentioned earlier on in the podcast, through client successes, through people wanting to build a business, and through success, I started to believe in myself a lot more. Wife particularly gave me a lot of confidence in what I can achieve and where we can go. Children came along, and that was hugely positive for us as a family. And through that, I grew really much more confident in what I can do. And as a result of that, but immediately prior to that, I would sort of sense check things and reverse back to maybe just to think, am I doing the right thing? Can I do this? Is this the right? Actually, as time's gone on, if you believe in your gut, you do the right things, you're genuine and honest, and you act with integrity, I think that's, for me, that's been the overarching part of what has been the success for my journey, has been believing in myself and bringing people on that journey with me.
Amazing. You heard it here first. Thank you very, very much, Pete. It's been a wonderful, wonderful podcast.
Thank you.
I hope you've enjoyed it.
Yeah, really enjoyed it.
Good man. So if you like what you've heard here today, then please click subscribe. There are loads and loads of other podcasts with great leaders for you to take a look at. But for now, from Southampton, Clarke Willmott and Pete, we'll see you in the next podcast.